And there we go. It's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere, and it just happens to be so in the Eastern Seaboard. Bienvenidos, and welcome to your 5 o'clock Thursday, January the 18th, with Joe and Andy. How you doing?
How you doing, Andy? I'm excellent.
What are you drinking today?
This is a Shiraz. I'm not really a wine connoisseur. Like, I like wine, but it's called Atlas. It's from South Australia, and it's a screw top, which is my favorite kind of bottle.
Right, ease of entry.
I almost made a very, very not safe for work joke.
No, it's like an unlocked door. All right, it's like a door, Joe.
Yeah. Well, it's more like it's for those rare occasions where I don't finish the bottle. I can close it up again more easily.
Hey, I always talk too much. Do you want to tell everybody why we're here?
You don't talk too much. We are reading Oh, shoot.
He forgot the title of the book.
No, I'm trying to show the cover on my Kindle, but when I open the Kindle, it goes to like the first page, and the cover's not there anymore. So we are reading by Pierce Brown, which I feel there's a list of canonical texts according to BookTube.
And they're all coming for him right now in alert form via Skype.
Yeah. There's a list of like canonical texts according to BookTube, like series that BookTubers talk about a lot, all seem to have an opinion about, right? I'm going to say like Wheel of Time, like Red Rising, maybe, and not every BookTuber has read all of them, but I feel like every BookTuber expects all the other BookTubers to have read several of them.
Yeah.
Like 6.
Red Rising is inescapable.
Yeah.
And it's one of those books that's incredibly popular and people like to talk about it, and it's not done yet.
Yeah. Sun Eater, Jenny Wirtz is getting there now with her stuff, and Assassin's Fate, Fool's Fate.
The Farseer stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, let's not forget Ryan Cahill. Ryan Cahill's going to be on the list. Toot sweet if he's not already.
Ryan Cahill, yes, but I feel like there's the trade stuff is bigger because the bigger booktubers are reading mostly trade. So like, the yes, but I mean, you could argue what belongs, but Red Rising is clearly either on the list or close to the list. So
right,
Dandelion Dynasty is right up there, and I'm not saying these are the best books. They're the ones that get talked about the most.
Well, and that's the thing is that we don't know until we read them.
Well, I heard it's YA-like or YA-ish, and that was a turnoff for me generally because I'm not into YA. So part of my goal reading this is to because some people are like, well, it's not really YA. And I'm like, I can read YA. I read Harry Potter, but I want to look at it and sort of analyze what is it about it that makes some people say it's YA and some people say it's not.
Okay, good. Well, that's the way that I want to appear. Actually, on my Christmas tree every year, we had a poker tournament at the beginning of in March. And in March, all winter I grow a beard, and in March I shave. And the last thing I take off is the handlebar mustache. And the poker tournament was during that thing, and I won the poker tournament. So on our Christmas tree is a picture of me and a handlebar mustache and reflective sunglasses from Cool Hand Luke, just looking like an American badass. Nice. It's the only time I've ever looked like a badass in my life, but there we go.
Nice, very nice.
I look like a member of YMCA is what I look like. I was the Village People.
Yeah. So I don't want people to think that I was reading this intending to hate it, because I'm absolutely not. If I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, I wouldn't have started it.
But, well, and I'm in the boat where it's just like I started it twice and I made it through the second chapter and I fell off because I was just like, gee, maybe no. And then Joe came to rescue me and said, I'll read it with you.
Yeah.
It's like, great, we'll be trapped in hell together. Okay, cool.
I think I was running an Amazon ad and I decided I would use the Red Rising books as keywords because they're popular in sci-fi. And then I thought, if I'm going to advertise on this guy, I should probably read it. Which isn't really like a thing. Hey, oh, excellent, guys.
I expected to hate Red Rising Book 1 because everyone shits on it.
Oh,
So I was pleasantly surprised and had fun with it. Nice.
I shared with my good friend Raph Bluetext, who's on the more intellectual side of the booktube world. And he was like, "You're kidding, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just gonna be quiet." Not kidding, actually reading it. But I like. I mean, not everything I read is highbrow by far. That's not my thing. I mean, some of it is more highbrow than others. Like Malazan's a little more not YA, right? Like it's the opposite. It's a little more complexity and subtlety, and it's like a little more. It's a lot more dense. But it's not everything I like. It's not like I only like stuff that's at that extreme.
Yeah, sometimes you can just do straightforward and roll. It took me like first 150 pages before it started giving Hunger Games vibes for me.
Yeah, I never read.
We'll talk about the Hunger Games here in a little bit.
Uh-huh.
What I wanted to ask you was, like, going into it, other than YA, which is really weird. I guess it makes sense because you don't really pursue YA, but every once in a while, one of the YA books kind of bubbles up. And it's like, oh, this works. And like Hunger Games really worked for me in the first two books. So like, what were you expecting walking into this? What were you scared of, afraid of, or worried that you were going to experience?
Couple things. So specific things in YA that are like my kryptonite.
Love triangle?
I don't mind love triangles. I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me. Young protagonist doesn't bother me a ton, but I feel that YA often spends less attention to making the world building make sense, like internal consistency. Like Harry Potter, like the world doesn't make sense. Like people will use a spell, and it's like, well, if that spell's available, their society would look a certain way, but it doesn't reflect that. It doesn't reflect that someone going, if everyone could do X, then farms would look like this, poverty would disappear, whatever you can kind of project from the world building, from the principles, it doesn't follow through.
Which admittedly is a really big thing for you. You hate plot holes and you hate magic system holes. Drives you nuts.
I do. It's like if time travel is possible, that's fine, but you better think it out, right? Like that's going to have huge ramifications. Mm-hmm. And it's fine to have it, but if you haven't thought it through,
that's a good joke.
There you go. Yeah. So so YA tends to do less of that because my definition of YA is really it's stuff that's aimed at newer readers. And generally newer readers who are not thinking as much about, not because young people don't think, but because you're not as experienced a reader. So you're not thinking about, but if they have grab boots, why don't they do X? Mm-hmm. Right? You're not used, because that's a thing you accumulate over time and over, not about being old, it's about having read many books. Right?
Right.
So I think if you were never a reader, I think you are in effect YA.
If you had no experience whatsoever, YA might be okay for you.
I know, but I mean, you don't have to be 16, but I think you have to have not read that many books or not thought about them that much,
right,
to be the target. And I mean, there's plenty of people who can read YA and kind of turn off that critical part of their brain, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. I just can't. Mine is always like, oh, Jesus, what the hell are they doing with the Helium-3? It's the first thing that bugged me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, there are maybe other things. It didn't bug me. Like, it's not bugging me to the point where I'm going to put the book down. But I really want to know what they're doing with the Helium-3. And I'm like on Google, like, what do you use Helium-3 for? Because you can use it for certain kinds of fusion. But I'm like, okay, which is energy, right? That's great. But
right.
But I'm like, it's not the best way to get energy. So I'm like,
it's a very important form of energy. Whereas to me, they could have replaced Helium-3 with Bergadebark, and I'd be like, oh, okay, it's a fuel source. Great. They need it for something.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the thing. With a YA book, the expectations are lower for whether the things like the Helium-3 are like actually make sense, actually like sort of valid.
I like that. Actually, I want to get to this. The most jarring thing about Red Rising for me was his weird use of camel case words when he doesn't want to explain something. Camel case is for programming. I think what it hit me as is, this is kind of weird and kind of pretentious. But by the sixth time you got to it, it was like, okay, it's a sling blade, whatever.
I liked it. I liked it. Like it's like using capitals or italics in weird ways to define your like weird terminology in your book.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand if it bugs a particular person. If it bugs you, it bugs you. I get it. I write Java for a living, so a camel case just makes me smile. Like it doesn't bother me. I use camel case all the time. I've never used it in a book, but maybe that now I'm thinking about it.
But
Like,
what I appreciated about it is it's a different because fantasy authors will throw in, umlauts and apostrophes and accents and whatever all over the place just to make it look kind of interesting. And I thought this was like an interesting sci-fi solution to that same problem. It's like, okay, this is a particular thing that you don't really know, but I'm going to jam two words together and you'll get it.
I'm a big fan of making things look different on the page.
Yeah.
There's a lot of italics, there's a lot of capitals. I will actually sometimes edit a book and I will look at the pages and make sure they don't look a certain way. Like not too many big paragraphs without like stuff in them.
Right.
The dialogue has to look a certain way. It can't be too monotonous.
This page is a wad of words.
Yeah, or this page is a wad of like 8-word sentences one after the other. Both are problematic.
Yeah.
But the camel case, I didn't. Yeah, I can see why it would bother me, but it didn't. That's why it bothered. Yeah, I use it all the time. I write Java for a living, so I'm in camel case constantly. But for some reason, it didn't bug me.
Sometimes you gotta mind some ham wavium.
Yeah, but that's the thing about the helium-3. It is hand wavium, and that's one advantage to fantasy is you can propose, postulate some kind of like magical like bacteria or something that they use, right? And then it's like,
a thing that does a thing.
It's magic, right? But then with sci-fi, like you get people like me, and I get a little more annoyed, because it's like, what do we even think we could use helium-3 for? But it was not enough to make me not read the book or even dislike the book.
For me, the thing that it didn't, I like YA when it's good, and good is what everybody's term is for it. But some of my favorite SFF stuff has been YA. Like I said, I just really, really enjoy Hunger Games a lot. I thought it was a great concept done well. And it was a lot of fun. And it was like, okay, right, Red Rising. So I get into the first chapter, right? And it's, I am a hell diver. I am the toughest man ever to live. Even the fires of hell cannot dissuade me. I'll climb out of my own drill and rip the rock out with my hand.
The vipers tried to eat me, and all it gave me was a bigger heart.
Right? And scared the hell out of me because I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be reading a book about this guy who is the toughest guy ever to live, and he feels that way and thinks that way all the time. I was like, I'm gonna hate every bit of this.
I mean, it is a little bit of a power fantasy for a 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's what YA kind of has to do. Like, and that, I mean, and at 16 or 18 or whatever, I liked this book a lot, but I would have liked it, I think, even more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here's what I always like to look at when I analyze these you clearly have like the hero, right? This is clearly one of those books, right?
Here's our guy. Darrow is our dude.
Darrow, and he's not. There's no equivocating, right? He's going to save the world, right, or save the day, or save his people, or something.
He's our guy.
So what makes him different? That's always like the thing. Like, what makes him different than all the other Helldivers and all the other clans? And like, or even just different than like, his like the guy in the next room, right? The same age, right? Like, what's the first thing we find is that he is more willing to take risks than the older people. And I'm like, this is an attempt to really pander to a teenager.
There's your, well, and you were talking about it on the Discord, talking about how it's like, yes, take the risks. All of the risks are good, and society is bad, and they hate you, and you must risk everything to destroy them.
That's what teenagers are sort of biologically hardwired to think, like, which makes sense, right? That's kind of how humans evolve. But I'm like, as a 53-year-old, I'm like, all right, maybe the old people know something. Maybe there's a reason they're not so eager to take all the risks.
But at the same time, they're also probably dicks.
Yeah. No, they are. But yeah, and then the class. I thought what I really appreciated most was the subtlety of the class distinctions in this book. and that is complete sarcasm.
Okay, thank you.
Poor Andy, you're looking at like
tick, 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 tick. Okay.
They just beat you over the head with the yeah. I mean, oh my god, oh, and that's I think another thing that appeals more to a newer reader. Like I think more.
Here's one of the things that I will say about that is that one, I always love anything having to do with colors. I'm like, go Power Rangers, let's do this thing. And the other thing is anytime you walk into a world and I spend 5 or 6 chapters not really getting it because you're not trying to info dump me and you're trying to let it eke out over time, I can get a little tweaked about it because I don't understand the relationships. As a dum-dum, I appreciated gold, silver, bronze, gray, pink, green. Okay, cool. I got it. It's a hierarchy and that makes sense. And I really do like the rigid structure of it, where it's like you are a blank. There is no commuting sentences, right?
I think that's part of what, a teenager feels the world is like, even if you're not.
You relegated me to a red.
When you're young, you feel like, oh, these rules are unfair and too rigid, and I should be an exception because I'm special. That's normal for a teenager to feel. And in this case, the society actually is like that. So when the guy's railing against it, you sympathize. It makes perfect sense. I thought he did a good job of not going crazy with the info dumps. Some of it had to happen because it is a complex alien world, in the sense of not being like ours, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it was bad. I didn't get, because sometimes I get really tweaked about info dumps. Like I do not like them, but this didn't irk me. I mean, there was maybe a little bit, but you couldn't have done it much. You couldn't have dribbled this information much slower without it really being just like too confusing.
Yeah,
there's a balance, right? And I thought Pierce Brown did it well, in my opinion, right? Just
well, and then you get past like the kind of introduction stuff, at least in the first chapter, and introducing his wife to me made him accessible.
Yeah,
because he loved his wife more than himself. His wife was better than he was. She was smarter than he was. She was more dedicated than he was. And he EO, and he like defers to her on everything because he's just like, I'm here for you. And I loved that because it softened him up for me. So I could be like, okay, I can, this guy is not just, I am a hell diver. He's like, he absolutely, genuinely, dearly loves his wife.
And the fact that ultimately his quest is motivated by her makes it less harsh, it's less about hatred.
Yes.
Gold. It's more about, I want to honor my wife's sacrifice. I mean, it's both.
But it is also about revenge.
Yes.
Which to me is always a little bit tricky, but honoring my wife, and later on in the book, which we're only going to talk about part 1, but later on in the book, you get to where people are watching her and he sees the effect that she had.
I got that
on them, and it's just like, and it becomes that honor.
I got through chapter 16 where the big speech.
I don't think I'm at 16. I think maybe I'm at 16. I don't remember.
16, where he's at the school.
He's made it to the school. He's met a couple people.
But he's barely there.
He's barely there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But other people, like I like I kept waiting for EO to annoy me because I'm easily annoyed, and she did not. The relationship did not bother. I liked it. I thought it was sweet.
Yeah.
Short but sweet, right? There wasn't a lot to her, but there was enough. Like for the amount of pages she was in, she had enough complexity to back that up. Right? I didn't feel like she was just getting fridged. And the fact that she sacrificed herself to me was a wonderful narrative choice. If they had just plucked her out, and because she was like cute, like here's the thing I feel like many books would have done. A Gold would have spotted her, thought she was cute, raped her, and killed her.
Oh, right. Right.
That's
the standard.
Then he wants revenge. And
make a bad guy.
Right. But that's a very standard kind of plot line. And that's not what happened. like it's different and not subtly different, but it's like really different. She willingly sacrificed herself, seeing the bigger picture, and like that's a really different. It's almost the same, but it's really not. Like I really like.
No. I don't think it's. Yeah, I agree with you.
The book could have worked the same either way.
Well, and it echoes the sacrifice that his dad made.
Right.
And having that kind of double thump happen in the tone really helps. Oh, by the way, spoiler, she dies. So
well, we said this was spoiler discussion of Red Rising.
Yeah, absolutely is a spoiler discussion.
Did you not say that? Oh, so sorry. Anyone watching?
Was there any question in your head that she was going to die?
I think as soon as he said how much he loved her, I'm like, oh, she's dead.
Right.
I think that very second. But there's also like writer brain at work there.
Oh yeah, well yeah, we pick apart.
I feel like 20 years ago I wouldn't have thought it so quickly because I, not trying to think it, But now it's like you look at a character and you're like, what's this character's purpose?
What are they here for?
And I think it consciously because I'm a writer, right? I didn't think it before I started writing. I would just enjoy.
Well,
right?
And the good indication always is any relationship that's too good, right? Especially in the beginning of a book, it's just like, no. I'm setting you up, so this is all lovely so that I can kill you.
Like she has to die or maybe betray him, but they didn't seem to be leaning in that direction.
Yeah, it didn't seem like the right choice.
No, it wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been.
Well, you know what it reminded? The first part of this book reminded me of Braveheart, right? You've got your guy, and he's a little bit different, and he's a little bit better, but she's the thing that keeps him going, and she's the thing that why his raison d'etre is the whole reason for what he does, and then it's just like, oh my god. The thing that made the first part brilliant to me was the thing that you weren't expecting, which was him getting cacked.
Yeah, that was good.
That was the thing that lit me on fire. And the fact that you get 80 pages into it before that happened, like you're not going to do that. You're not going to kill off your main character. We've already invested here. And the fact that on page 80 he's like, nope, you too.
Right. Yeah. That was different. Yeah, there were some good narrative choices here. Again, you always think about how a worse writer might have had a similar basic idea and approached it, and he, and he uses. I mean, the unfairness of the hierarchy is a little extreme.
Sure.
And again, it bugs me on some level. I'm like, how are there literally billions of Reds and none of them notice that none of them sneak upstairs and like peek? like how does it?
There's no underground network. Nobody's talking to each other. It's like, oh, there's 26 of us over here.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I see large populations, large groups of people keeping a secret, that always it tweaks my radar. I'm like, I don't buy that. Like, just you can't have billions of people not knowing something. But you have to realize the kind of book you're reading, and you get past it, or you don't, right? But
or you don't.
And you put lots of people hate Red Rising because it has this is why people this is one of those YA elements, right? That you can't think too hard about the fact that billions of people couldn't be kept in the dark like this. If you think about that too much, you're not going to enjoy the book.
Right.
And the book isn't going to give you any answer to that. It's just going to be like you have to accept the sort of like broad dynamics of the power structure and you move on.
But it's like Senlin Ascends. You can't, question what this giant structure is. That's a series of levels that portrays the different functions of society. It's like, just go. Are you okay with this? This is what we do. It's like,
I have not read Senlin Ascends. It's also on my list to get to at some point.
Dude, for Senlin Ascends, you need to be ready because it's like it's not sweet. It's not colorful. It's like reading Jonathan Swift. It's just kind of, let's go to Brobdingnagian. Let's go to Lilliputian. And it's like, it's not bad. I love it because it's deep as hell. But the whole time you're going through it, you're trying to figure out what the parallels are and figuring out whether or not you're right or not.
Right. Well, here, if you're struggling to figure out the parallels, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, you're in sixth grade.
They're pretty clear. I like the Oh, there was one place where I just felt punched in the nose by the parallels, where he said something about how the people, the Reds, were distracted from how much they should have hated the Golds by being made to hate the other Reds, like the Gammas, who had the laurel.
Yeah.
And like as soon as he won the laurel or like got the thing, I'm like, they're never getting the laurel.
No.
Right? You just have to know that this is not going to work, and they're just going to end up hating the Gammas for unfairly keeping the laurel. And I'm like, this is very on the nose. Like, this is another YA move, right? Like it's too unsubtle. Like, no, I didn't mind, but I didn't love it. I'm just like, okay, like this is what an adult book, you would need something a little more subtle than this, but they just come out and tell you.
Because for experienced readers, there's no question that the game is rigged.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, from the beginning, you're like, oh, he wins the laurel.
He literally says, oh, they make us hate each other instead of them. And I'm like, yes, this is how racism and class warfare work in modern society. This is what we do. But I mean, I think if I'd read this at 16 or even maybe 20, I would have thought that was really cool and really like kind of insightful.
Okay.
Because at 53, I'm like, yeah, I figured this out, half a century ago.
But
I had a quarter century ago.
Despite the hammer hitting the nail directly on the head, you're enjoying the book. So what do you think the difference is there between, okay, none of the concepts are very obvious. There's nothing new or revelatory going on here. Nothing's a big surprise, but
but a few things are big surprises. The, like you said, him dying was kind of a surprise. The overall storyline's a little predictable. They kind of give it away in the prologue. Like, he ends up a gold or something, right?
Yeah.
In the prologue. It definitely hits tropes that I personally really like. Like, I like the Superman trope, like the superhuman thing, where he gets all the enhancements and now he's super strong. I love that stuff.
When we get to the next one, yeah.
It appeals to the child in me, right? Like, it appeals, I write superhero stories. There's a reason I write superhero stories, or about people who are magical fighters, right? I like that stuff.
My muscle fiber is faster. I'm stronger. I'm more beautiful.
And it kind of makes no sense. Like, in a world where you've got like starships like bombing planets, why bother genetically engineering people who are really good with knives? Like, I don't know. Like,
ask Dune.
Oh my god! But that's the joy of Dune. Dune had every piece of tech in Dune was just so they could have guys sword fighting.
Yes, I completely agree. The whole shield fast, it'll stop fast, it won't stop slow. It's like, okay, we're not doing a blaster book, we're doing a sword book. Okay, this is why.
No sense, except because a guy with a sword holding off an army just seems more feasible than a guy with a gun holding off an army of guys with guns, right? That clearly doesn't work.
Right.
Sword, you kind of imagine it could work. Because we've been trained to imagine a guy with a sword can hold off an army and like in a hallway or something and just stab them one after the other. Because that's part of our culture, with a gun, he's going to catch a stray bullet.
Yeah, he's got to. Nobody can fire 25 bullets and miss.
But the amount of tech that Frank Herbert just pulled out of the air that made no sense, just to have that in the books was just, I still love it. I love that stuff. But I mean, it's ridiculous.
I need to get that quote written down and inscribed on a copy of Dune, and I'll send it to you.
I got pretty. That was part of my I've been on a book buying spree, like nice books. And Kayla, nice.
Hey, I love you. Joe loves you. Everyone loves you. By the way, if you don't love Kayla, fix it. This is what you need to know.
You don't love Kayla. You're the problem.
You are the problem. Seriously.
That should be the tagline of her channel. If you don't love me, you're the problem.
You are the problem. I am terribly sorry for you.
No charge. Keep that.
The scene where we get to the execution, okay, we bring on our big bad Augustus, and he is there to watch that punishment happen. And they go after her, and she sings the song. I don't know what it is about music and this is probably why I'm a Quoth fan. I don't know what it is about music and songs and books, but for whatever reason, when I read about it, it surpasses anything that could actually exist just because it's theoretical. And it's like, oh, it's the most beautiful song ever sung, and it's the most amazing dance you've ever seen in your life. So I suckered right into that. I was there's a sales pitch if you ever saw one.
No.
But he got me so hard with the I'm gonna sing the song. Listen, hear the song of my people.
Yeah, I'm not as musical, but the fact that she made a gesture that would be recognized and basically forced them to kill her, I thought was phenomenal. Right? Again, in my mind, there's like this baseline story. There's like this most basic, which is the Golds kill her because they catch her doing something or because she's pretty. You know, that's
I am a slave. The slave master rapes my wife. I kill the slave master.
That's like right. That's like the story we've all seen, and that's fine, right? If that had been the setup, I think it would have been fine. You know, the book would have gone on. It would have been, but the fact that she threw herself into the jaw of the bureaucracy, you know, she forced their hand, made it better, just way better. You know, it's just good stuff. Good stuff, and you know, you have moments like that. Like that's what makes a good book stand out, right? But that was definitely high on my list of things that were happening.
Mm-hmm.
The song was really good, and you know that's going to come back, and we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, there's your drum beat.
And then I have not read ahead. I don't know anything that happened. I don't know anything about the later books. Like I haven't even read the blurbs. But
No.
You have to figure that dance is going to lead to some kind of martial arts stuff later on. All the dancing they keep talking about being
taught. You've gotten to the okay, folks. We're going to skip past part one real quick, but I want to actually have a couple of different conversations if that's okay with you. But the dance stuff where he excels at it amazingly well because of Uncle Neryl's teachings turns me on so much because it's like it's this almost tribal like influence that his uncle has had on him that you know is going to wind up being this martial reason to succeed where he's better than all of the Golds at this. And I just love, and the fact that it's something so weak and non-militaristic as dancing blows me up inside. I love it.
There are many historical precedents of populations teaching martial arts by dance. Right. Whole martial arts, capoeira is a whole martial art developed by like slaves living in like South America to teach martial arts while making it look like they were just dancing so they could get away with it.
Right.
Some oppressive regime was watching them, and like if they were practicing martial arts, they would have been like stopped. But I mean, there are other examples that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I've studied martial arts for a long time. I've read about it. So
whereas my people, the Scots, were not allowed to have weapons and train with them because of the English. So we just threw rocks around. It was not elegant.
Toss this hammer as far as you can. Okay.
Hey, wait, pick up that tree and chuck it at a Roman. Okay.
Love me some Highland games. That's good stuff.
We actually for no reason whatsoever, we went to Highland Games this summer, and one of them seriously was they were throwing hay bales over a bar with a pitchfork. Is like, this is still a thing.
This is supposed to be a super fun contest to go to.
And they had this big two-handed weight that they would chuck up as high as they can. There was a bar at the top that you had to go over. I was like, what? Do you know what this is called? And one of the people watching the thing was like, I have no idea. Do you know what this is called? I have no idea. Do you know what this is called? Yes. It's called weight over bar. Yeah. Which just explains how creative the Scotsmen are.
What are you trying to do in this event? over the bar.
Weight over bar. We don't need to explain anything else, and now we no longer need to talk. We are.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff. So you know the dancing is going to come to fruition. But that's my thing about these. Like I'm always looking at like what makes this guy like better than the guy trained from birth to do what he's trying to do. How do you justify the fact that he's going to be, because he has to be like above average somehow,
right?
You know, is he just like, and you know, and then it's like, well, part of it is, you know, he had a tough upbringing in a way that no gold does,
right?
And that's the whole like the, oh, you're poor, you've lived a tough life, but that made you stronger.
That made you better.
Iron sharpens iron, right? That made you better. So that's going to be appealing to most people because most of the readers are not from the highest, you know, the 1%.
Well, and again, skipping ahead, they talk about the idea of the ascension, where it's the people who are tough who wind up climbing the hill. And then there's the rule period where those people and the generation after them are the people who are in charge. And then there's the descent.
Right, because they're soft.
You get soft.
Yeah. Actually, doesn't Augustus? No, the top gold on Mars. I forget the guy. I'm not good with names.
Yeah, it's whoever's over Augustus.
The Reds below you are tougher than you are because they've suffered more than you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he says it, and I'm like, okay, a little on the nose, but good. You want Darrow to be like, yeah.
Look, you know, I feel like in order for Darrow to get it, you need to state it directly.
So what I need to happen, so Darrow has like natural gifts.
Mm-hmm.
He's just sort of lucky. And the one is this sort of, I have a gift for extrapolational thinking. Like he's smart. But like there's going to be someone in every population who's like smarter than everybody, right? That's what happened. That's if that is the thing that he can leverage into like succeeding in this mission, I will be perfectly happy.
I think you're going to be perfectly happy.
But the more other like coincidences and like natural gifts pop in, the less I'm going to be happy.
I feel like that's the combo plate right now that they're setting us up for, which is the extrapolational thinking and the dancing. These are the two things that are going to put him over the top.
If that's what he has that let him become in a position where he can like do what he needs to do, I'm going to be thrilled.
Well, and again, skipping ahead, I'm sorry, but here are the two cards. There's the sheep and the reaper. If you pick one, you live. If you pick the other one, you die. He knows the game is rigged. They're both the wrong card. He sticks one of them in his mouth.
I did.
That scene I love.
That's another good one. Yeah.
Because it's a Kobayashi Maru moment, right? Where it's like, okay, there are not two options. There's a third. And I'm going to invent a way out of this.
You take one card, right? Yeah, you eat it. You take it and like, that's my card, the one that's still there.
Here's the one here's the one I didn't pick. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, as a writer.
Yes, it's a live thought of Red Rising. We're doing full spoilers, Crazy Kip.
So yeah, be careful.
And we're only doing part one because I this is delicious enough to let it last. And I love Joe. Joe.
Part one is we did 16. I read 16 chapters. I know you read 16 because you said something about 16 on the Discord.
Yeah, I'm pretty close.
I read to catch up to 16 because you read something, but then I didn't read any further, so I wouldn't confuse myself.
Well, and I didn't think when we started this that there was any chance that we'd stay together. And it's kind of, I think we're doing a halfway decent job of like, okay, we're going to here. Because I've never had a read along work all that well.
Funny read of my life.
Okay.
Never done this. So here's the thing in my mind, like a good action story, a good plot-driven story, the main characters have to have these things they overcome in clever ways.
Yeah.
And the ending should be, the best endings are the heroes coming up with something extra clever.
Mm-hmm.
They're just strong. At the end, you don't want the climax of your book to be a tug of war against the bad guy and you win because you're stronger.
Nope.
Right? That's a terrible ending. That's why the last Star Wars movie was terrible.
Yeah.
Right? The ending was just like basically a tug of war, right?
We can outfight you.
We are just, I can produce more newtons of force, right? No one, that's not, because that doesn't feel like the hero earned it. Doesn't feel like a virtue to just be strong. oh, you just have like more weight or bigger glutes. That doesn't make you a hero, right? But cleverness is a virtue. Yeah, we like big glutes, but that doesn't make you a hero, right? But like coming up with those things as a writer, coming up with those tests where the hero does something clever, that's That's really hard.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got to come up with a smart way for the hero to win the scenario that the reader doesn't immediately come to. Because if the scenario comes up and your reader goes, well, obviously this is how to win this test, and that's what they do, then you've failed, right? That's not showing cleverness. But the card thing was really good.
What I love is, like, I'm serious. I read that first chapter, the first 2 chapters, twice. And each time I was like, I don't think I can do this, because my expectations were like, oh boy, I'm going to have what are they called? A Bobby Sue, whatever they are, where they can do everything. Yeah. And going back into it and going through at the end of part 1, I feel like I have what the greatest point that you get to with an author is where you like, I trust that you have something serious for me, right? I know you're going to pull off Act 2, Act 3, and Act 4 the right way. And when you get to that point with somebody, it's just like, okay, let's go.
The card thing did that for me. I don't know which one was first, but the card thing I thought was really nice.
Gary Stu, thank you.
The card thing was really nice. Io sacrificing herself with the song, I thought would have done that for me. There may have been more points where Pierce Brown won me over in here, but those are the 2 that come to mind. That this is like a step above. There's like the idea where you could take this rough idea and like sort of like, I feel like I could have, any idiot could have written this book, but those 2 are like, not every idiot could have come up with those moments.
No.
Any idiot could have come up with some of this stuff, but that's always true of every book. Every book has stuff where
ideas are cheap. Let's come on.
Yeah, but those 2 are good. Those were clever, and I'm thinking about stuff. I'm thinking about stuff from Legend of Blackjack. Right? You definitely have these moments where Jack is like winning through cleverness.
Be smarter than the other guy.
There's like 3. There's like at least 3 that struck me at the time reading it. I'm like, those make the book. Because without those,
wait, while we're doing this, I'll do the vice versa on you. The stuff that makes Wistful in the following books great is that there are pieces where Rowan could wipe the floor with everybody, and there's your dum-dum solution. But we're gonna come up with another solution.
I could just punch everyone down.
You're right. I could just destroy everyone right now, and I'm going to do this a different way.
The worst, as a writer, you'll appreciate this. The worst is when I have an outline, and I'll literally have in my outline, like Rohan does something clever, and then I'm writing, and I get to that point. Well, F you, Joe of the past. Now I have to think of something clever, and that's
come up with something, dummy.
I literally will write that, like Rohan does clever thing to get out of this. And I'm writing. I'm like, what the hell, man? And the only man is me. There's no one to blame but me.
Right.
That's the worst part.
Okay, great. I'll just sit here and come up with something. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, and I have to sit there and stare at the monitor until I come up with some clever way for Rohan to,
The other thing that got me, and again, this is skipping forward to part 2, but the thing that got me, he gets on the bus with all the golds going to school, right? And he starts talking with a guy, and the guy is actually pretty nice. And he says, I was expecting these people to be monsters. Yeah. He should be a monster.
Yeah.
That was the moment I was like, you can go anywhere you want to. You have my complete faith that you are going to make this work.
It's good because if you hang out with those people, if you hang out with like very rich, powerful, well, you've done more of this than I have, but I've done some of it because I've worked with people who are, I'm not rich or powerful, but I've known people who are rich and powerful.
New York finance.
I've been at a table with them. I'm not trying to over exaggerate my influence in the world, but
you've been with them.
Often they're very lovely, charming people, and they're not necessarily really like, they don't come across as like, mustache twirling and out to like destroy the underclass. Like it's just, oh, I'd like to make a little more money this year. How do we do that? And like,
And
the
they often
evil
come
is
off.
very,
They are often very sharp.
yeah.
Right. You get in a meeting room and you think, oh, they're just kind of here, and then they kind of raise their hand and they say something. You're like, oh, yeah, you're actually right.
And they're
So
charismatic. Oh, many, many of them are charismatic. Many of them are sharp. Many of them have lots of good qualities. So like,
yeah,
you get in a room and it's not the mustache twirling, right? It's not like,
um,
most capitalists are not, I can't wait to make the lower classes suffer more. Like, I think very few very rich people care, right? Very rich people don't care if the lower classes do suffer more, but that's not their goal. Their goal is just to get more money,
right.
right? The goal is not like, oh, I can't wait to make poor people's lives worse.
What is the lowest salary the union will agree to?
Right. But it's not because like, oh, I hate the union members. I want them all to like struggle to pay for food. It's more like, I just want my money, right?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to get paid, right? And so if the goals had been cartoonishly evil, it would have been a strike against the book, and it would have been an easy way to go. Remember, I talked about that, like roughly take the story and have a bad writer write it. That's my baseline. That's what they would have been like. They would have all been sadistic,
and lots of acerbic comments, and everything was a put down, and I have to be better than you all the time, and it would have made them hateable, but it would have made the book worse.
I hate that. There were books I've read where like the good guys and the bad guys are almost the same, except the bad guys, like you get some like bedroom scene and they're sexual sadists. That's like my least favorite trope, right? I hate that.
Right.
Like, that's
how do I tell you this person is bad? When you get to them behind closed doors,
they like causing pain. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, it's so easy and it's so cheap. And like, you're insulting my intelligence because, again, most bad people are like that in that way. So kudos to Pierce Brown for not taking the easy out with some of that.
Well, and honestly, I feel like there's a reason this book has become this book. Hunger Games tapped into the same emotion, right? And it's a powerful, and I don't care if you're a teenager. If you're 22, you can feel like this. If you're 31, you can feel like this. If you're 55, you can feel like this, because this is what your life is like. And I think that fight against the people that have control over my lives, whether they're your parents or your boss or the government, is a really good emotion to tap into. And being Hunger Games just ripped off Battle Royale. That's just what it is. Off we go. And it's like the Harry Potter and the Hunger Games stuff. Okay, I've got 13 districts. Okay, I've got 4 houses. Okay, I've got 8 colors. Okay, cool. It makes it easy to glom onto, so you don't waste my time explaining the social hierarchy for 40 pages.
That's some good writing, right? The colors make for good writing. Like it's like I can explain this complex society to you in a way that you will understand and you will remember. And if I come back to it in a couple chapters and I haven't reminded you, it's not going to be that hard for you to go like, what's a green again? What's an obsidian? I don't remember what the greens are, honestly, right now. Like if you asked me and put a gun to my head, I could not tell you.
If I had to guess, they were pilots. All I know is the whites are academics.
Okay, whites are academics. You got the pinks are like the pleasure slaves. All right,
pleasure servant.
But you got
I liked your comment about a good little bit of homophobia to start off your day. But I love that scene with whatever his name is, the pink. It's just like all that dialogue back and forth for 3 chapters works.
It works, but Mateo's also but he's also like your stereotypical like gay hairdresser kind of character, right? Which is fine
to an extent. But when they get to the end of Mateo's arc, it's like, go kill him. It's like,
Mateo's good. Mateo's is a little bit of a trope, right? Like kind of right. But that was okay. Like he wasn't
exactly like Senna in Hunger Games, right?
Never read Hunger Games.
The person that's going to help you transform from that's going to take you through the Pygmalion stages really quick so we can get there.
The other nice thing I liked was that there were the two people transitioning him, right? Because there was Mateo who did the training, and then the cutter guy who I can't remember his name, and they were different in interesting ways, and that was just nice. Like it was, they didn't have the same attitude. One was afraid of him. I love that. I really love that. They made me into this, but now they're actually a little bit afraid of me.
Mm-hmm.
I love that so much. I love that I'm a little more than they expected of me, and now they're not sure. Like if they made me, maybe they're worried a little bit.
I'm better at this than they thought I would be.
And I love that.
I don't really know if I was actually a red to begin with.
I love that. So I do it, right? I do it with Rohan all the time, where I'm like, he's like, the fathers are a little afraid of me. Like that was one of my favorite things to write in the series, was that idea that like, oh, you're useful. Maybe you're a little more than useful.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a little nerve-wracking. And like, but you can't bludgeon people with that. And Pierce Brown didn't bludgeon us with that.
But no, he did great.
He did great.
And Boak says they're programmers and tech folk, I believe.
That's
right, at one point he says it's like expecting a green to be a pilot. So I'm guessing, okay, green are the opposite of pilots, which are tech nerds.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's fine. Like, I mean, it's fine that I don't remember what greens are. Like, but I mean, you know what you need to know. You need to know the reds, the greens, and the obsidians. And that's all you need to remember.
And I love the three different classes of golds. The idea that they're the scrubs, and then the people who do okay, and then the serious people on top, the Scarlet Beard.
And this very Roman Empire notion of
totally, with the naming the conventions and everything.
But also like the fact that many of the golds are just like out to party.
Yeah.
And they're useless.
Right? Yeah. Pixies.
Yeah, the pixies, right?
Yeah,
well,
pixies.
That's such a strong theme in our understanding of Western civilization, right? That if society gets too rich, they like to party too much, and then they fall, right? So the pixies are like the sign of and it's even acknowledged. It's nicely done. I was pleased. I was pleased.
Well, I've taken up about an hour of your time, so I think we'll probably jump off and do part 2. We'll hang out in the Discord and keep going on this. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for it. Just so happened that you were kind of ready to read this now. My experience with the book is going to be 1,000,000 times better because I got to share it with you.
Thank you. Mine too. It adds dimensions, right? It adds a dimension. Like there's a dimension where you read it to enjoy it. Then it adds a dimension when you're a writer, because then you read it to enjoy it and to figure out why it works. Which is something that before, if you're not a writer, or maybe other people do that too, but I didn't. Before I was a writer, I did not do that, right? I wasn't analyzing, why does this work? I was just enjoying it. And there's another layer where you're like, oh, I've got to talk to my friends about it. So I have to be extra conscious of what it is that's working for me, because I'm going to share it on the Discord, or I'm going to share it with Andy. And it's almost like a fourth thing. So now I need something to say on the stream, right?
I need to think about why I liked what I like.
No, but it adds to the enjoyment, and it's not a super complex book, but no. I'm definitely enjoying.
But again, I feel like the lack of complexity, or at least the overall, hey, this is what we're doing here, and not at no point is the reader confused. I think that's a great lesson to learn as a writer, where it's just like the bouncing ball is not that hard to follow, and that makes it easier to latch in and enjoy what's going on moment to moment.
There's nothing wrong with it. It means your book will not be considered a great work of literature, but that's fine.
Right.
And from what I understand, it gets more complex and a little more nuanced later on.
Well, and a little more muddy.
But that's beautiful, right? That's, in a way, that's like, you bring your that's what people say. They say like, oh, he grew as a writer. And I'm like, did he, or was he deliberately like holding back early to bring people through with him? I have no idea. I don't know Pierce Brown.
But the thing is, to me, there's a certain point at which you tip over where like third book of Hunger Games for me was like, okay, you started off with this really great thing. You brought it back really for an encore and did the same thing again. And I was fine with that. And I enjoyed it. And you brought some new things to it. And then you get to the third book and it's like, this is the most depressing thing I've ever read in my life. Because we're going to address all of the reality of this now. It's just like, oh, I don't want to do that.
No, no, thank you.
No, thank you. I don't want everybody trying to commit suicide and being locked in an underground cave. It just doesn't sound right.
I know enough about this to know that some of the books get pretty dark, but I don't remember which ones. And people, if I keep reading, which I think I will, I'm not going to like read a whole bunch of reviews and.
No, my guess is with Red Rising, if he does what I think he's going to do, which is, give you a good story by the end, I think I'll probably finish the initial trilogy and then go wander off into something else because I think I probably will have gotten the marrow out of the bone at that point.
I have to see how the trilogy feels when I'm done with it.
Right. Was I happy? Do I really need to continue forward?
It's always that, right? Like, it's like, do I need more of this? Which happened in Dune about like 3 books later than it should have.
Oh, dude. You went all the way to Children of Dune?
Oh, I really like God Emperor of Dune.
Whoa.
But that also hit themes that I particularly love. Like, I'm not, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to everybody, but I really.
You're a better man than I am, Gunga.
I read all the Frank Herbert books. The stuff after God Emperor was where it got really bad.
Yeah, that too.
I read one of his kids' books, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore.
Well, it was Dune light. It was like Dune with more battles.
It was the plot continuing, but not the ideas.
Yeah.
Right, the ideas weren't furthering. It was just more plot. Anyway.
All right. Well, as far as the ideas continuing, but just more plot, the two of us will sign off. Thank you all very much for tuning in. And thank you, Joe.
Thank you for watching. And thank you, Andy, for hosting.
For playing this game with me. I'll see you in a bit.
Appreciate it.
Bye.